takeaways from CNN presidential debate with Biden and Trump. President Joe Biden is 3 years and 7 months older than former President Donald Trump. And in their debate Thursday night on CNN, the gap between the 81 years old incumbent and his 78 years old challenger seemed much larger. And Biden Harris and displaying little vocal range and was often unable to express his differences with Trump with clarity. And at one point, by the way, after Biden had trailed off as he defended his record on border security, and Trump says that I really don't know what he said at the end of that sentence, and I don't think he knows what he said either. And Trump in the meanwhile at times repeated his frequent election denialism, and he said he would accept the result of the 2024 election if it is fair and legal, and Biden then repeated his lies about fraud in the 2020 election. And you are a whiner, and you lost the first time, and Biden says that again. It was the first time, by the way, either man had debated since 2020 election, and they made history Thursday night, and it was the first time a sitting president and a former president had ever debated, and the two clashed over abortion, and immigration, and foreign policy, and inflation, and more. And their showdown took a bitter and personal turn. And Biden, by the way, highlighted Trump's criminal convictions, and Trump responded by invoking Biden's son and Hunter, and who was also recently convicted. And then Biden accused Trump of having sex with porn star Stormy Daniels while Trump's wife was pregnant. And I didn't have sex with a porn star, and Trump says that again. Here are 11 takeaways from the CNN debate in Atlanta, and moderated by Jack Taber and Dana Bash. Biden age problem just got a lot worse, and the most important job for Biden on Thursday night was to rest voters and concerns about his biggest his age, and turn the election into a referendum on Trump, and he failed to do so. And Biden was hoarse and at times unintelligible, and words often ran together, and he stumbled, particularly when he tried to guide and recitation, and he rarely raised his voice to hammer home points of emphasis, and missing opportunities to attack Trump over his efforts to overturn the 2020 election, and his Supreme Court appointment that led to the reversal of Roe v. Wade's abortion rights protections and more. And two campaign sources said Biden has had a cold in recent days, and so the Democratic primary is long over, and his performance is sure to lead to more hand running among party members over whether handling Biden a second nomination with only nominal opposition was the right move. And it also raises the stakes for 10th September, and when Biden, by the way, and Trump are set to meet for their second and, as of now, final debate hosted by ABC. And Trump pulls some of his punches on Biden. For a candidate who regularly attacks Biden on his age, Trump is always fairly restrained during his president and numerous stumbles. And about 20 minutes into the debate, Trump followed a Biden remark with a quick snip, and saying that I really don't know what he said at the end of the sentence, and I don't think he does either, and it was the exception that proved the rule, and history suggests it was a kind of self or campaign and imposed rule on Thursday night for Trump or not to be seen taunting or mocking Biden's difficulties. And 4 years ago, by the way, the first general election debate of the cycle was a mess for Trump, and who constantly interrupted Biden and shot it over the moderators, and if not exactly a lesson learned. And then his tone in Atlanta was a correction designed to erase memory of the damaging and helter-skelter performance. And when Biden basically stumbled over a question about the national debt and trying to explain the benefits of raising taxes on the super rich before losing steam and concluding with the declaration that we finally beat midkill, and there was a sense that Trump would bonus, and he had his eyes trained on the president and his lips pursed for much of the rambling difficult to decree answer, and he almost went by the way at one point, and about Trump then did a most un-Trump like thing. He responded like a typical political. And well, he is right, and he did beat midkill, and Trump says that again. He beat it to this, and then he continued on railing about Biden's immigration policy and questions over Biden goal. Biden's, by the way, Biden physical shortcomings and Thursday night, and a voice that failed him, diminished appearance, and a split screen face that was wildly shared online, and it wasn't really clear of in 90 minutes what objectives he entered the evening hoping to achieve. And unlike in their first meeting 4 years ago, by the way, and when Biden put Trump's record under the microscope and offered a more hopeful vision for the country. His message, by the way, Thursday was modeled, and not just by his struggles finishing a thought. And Biden, by the way, was clearly on defense most of the night, and but that was to be expected, and as he is the incumbent. But his explanation for his record was often deep in the weeds of the policy of his first term, and fell short of evoking the middle-class Joe and the image he cultivated for years. And his attacks on Trump were similarly uneven, and he struggled to fact-check the former president on his lies, and even once, by the way, that had been repeated for years. And on the biggest issues for Democrats, abortion, Biden failed, and at times his retorts and were budgeted down in his tactics that were hard to follow, and like this riff on the former president's tax cuts for the wealthy. And we have 1,000 trillionaires in America, 1,000 trillionaires in America, and billionaires in America also. And what is happening? They are in a situation where they in fact and pay 8.2% in taxes. And if they just paid 24% or 25%, either one of those numbers, when they raise $500 million and $1 billion, I should say, in a 10 years period, and would be able to wipe out his debt. At another point, by the way, he said Trump is the only president other than Herbert Hoover, and who had lost more jobs than he had when he began since Herbert Hoover. And he scanned, by the way, rejoined and learned and leaned on the collective thought of nameless and scholar and Nobel literate and economics to drive home his point. And Biden, by the way, is hardly the first incumbent to be tripped up by the initial debate, but his aides were supposedly aware of his curse and had prepared the president during a week of intense preparation at Camp David. And what was President Thursday thought, and not only failed to quiet concerns about Biden's capacity for fight on, and it left voters with an unclear idea of what he is fighting for. And Biden's one-liner offense. Throughout the debate, Biden's offensive strategy was to again and again deploy one-liners to ding Trump, and some of the lines were standard Biden fear, and even single think he is said is a lie, and every single one, and he shot at the former president at one point, by the way. In another hand, he said, by the way, I have never heard so much malarkey in my life. and in a potentially bright spot for Biden. And the president highlighted a 2020 report by The Atlantic that Trump had referred to American war and it as seekers and losers. And he invoked by the way his son, Bill, and who died of brain cancer after a year in Iraq, in which he was exposed to toxic fumes. And my son wasn't a sucker, by the way, and you are a sucker, and you are the loser. And Biden says that again. And during a riff about Trump being convicted for trying to cover up having an affair with Daniels, and Biden says that you have the morals of an alley cat, and the stark difference in addressing in 6th of January. Put simply, Biden was eager to address the events of 6th of January 2021 season, and head on as Trump moved to change the subject. And the difference in the responses between the two candidates were some of the strictest during the entire debate, and when the debate veered towards the attack by the way of the US Capitol, Trump didn't address them directly, and he described how the country at the time had a great border, and that we were energy independent, and that the United States had the lowest taxes ever, and we had the lowest regulations ever. And the former president, by the way, didn't address the speech he delivered to supporters ahead of the riot that day, during which he encouraged supporters to show strength at the US Capitol. And Biden, by the way, by contrast, said Trump encouraged those folks to go to Capitol Hill, and that while the Capitol was under siege, and Trump sat there for 3 hours watching, and while staffers begged him to do something. And Trump makes news with abortion bill stance in a debate, by the way, dominated by discussion on the economy, inflation and immigration and foreign policy. Abortion should have been Biden's strongest topic, and the US Supreme Court handed abortion rights supporters to win this month, and Democratic voters are still motivated, by the way, by anger over the overturning of Roe v. Wade. And the next, it was one of his worst moments of the night. Biden, by the way, struggled to explain his party's stance on abortion, and rambled and appeared and confused at times, and unprompted gave Trump an opening to bring up crimes migrants have committed against Americans. And earlier this month, the Supreme Court, by the way, dismissed a case that would have rollback access to the abortion bill. Melvin and Trump on Thursday backed the High Court's ruling, and the Supreme Court just approved, by the way, the abortion bill, and I agree with their decision to have done that, and I will not block it. And he says that again. From there, by the way, Trump reiterated his stance that regulating abortion should be left to be states, and repeated his false assertion that every legal scholar and wanted to end federal abortion protections, and they said he supports exceptions for rape and incest and to protect the life of the mother. And it's been a great thing, and Trump says of abortion returning to the states, and it's been a triple thing, and Biden shot back, by the way, and the fact is that the vast majority of constitutional scholars supported Roe when it was decided. But while abortion, by the way, should have been one of the president's strongest moments of the night, and given the emphasis his campaign has placed on restoring access, and Biden's answer instead took a confusing turn and gave Trump an opening to talk about crimes committed against Americans by migrants, and a vibes fight about Israel and Gaza. By the way, there is no doubt that Trump would handle the war in Gaza much differently than Biden. But how? By the way, let Israel finish the job, and he told that the suggestion being that the president has done too much to restrain the Israeli government and its military and bombardment of Palestinians in Gaza. And Trump didn't say whether he would back a Palestinian state, but did insist that Hamas in 7th of October attack inside Israel would have never happened, and if he had been in the White House at the time. He also says that Biden has become like a Palestinian, but they don't like him because he is a bad Palestinian, and that was probably intended as a job to suggest Biden is too differential to the Palestinian but also too intellectual, earn their respect. And Biden didn't offer much himself, and he talked up America's close alliance with Israel and made a special note that the US is providing Israel with all the weapons they need and when they need them, and if he was finishing for progressive votes. And there wasn't much to bite on, by the way. And the president also talked up the ceasefire deal he spoke about a few weeks ago that has yet to materialize. And it's by all recent account and a non-starter with leaders on both sides, by the way. And the next president, be it Biden or Trump, will have a massive job to do in the region, and that is especially true in Israel and Gaza, and where when the fighting ends, the US and other world powers will be called upon to negotiate some kind of peaceful path forward. But as the performances on Thursday night show it, there are no easy by the way answers, and the hard truths will be difficult to come by. Trump attacks on deportations. The immigration, by the way, section of the debate was mostly memorable for Biden's stumble, but Trump didn't directly answer a question about whether the severe immigration crackdown he has promised will involve deporting those who have been in the United States for decades, and those with jobs, and those whose spouses are US citizens. And instead he pivoted, by the way, he pivoted into an attack on Biden, and arguing that the president bears the blame for crime committed by undocumented immigrants since he took office. And you are living right now in a rat nest, and they are killing our people. And Trump says that they are killing our citizens at a level we have never seen before. And Biden had sought to emphasize that illegal border and crossing have dropped recently, shut back, and every single thing he said was a lie. Trump's take on foreign policy and blame Joe Biden. And as the former president tells it, the current one is not doing such a great job, and the US military can't stand him for a number of reasons, and most infamously his bullshit and withdrawal from Afghanistan. And Russian President Vladimir Putin was encouraged by him to invade Ukraine and Iran, and which was broke during his presidency, and was freed up by him to wage a proxy war against Israel because of him. And Trump, by the way, painted a bleak picture of the world and global politics during the Biden era, and he also again refused to make a clear commitment to NATO, and instead bragging about his efforts to get members up to date on their dues. And Putin's, by the way, terms for ending the war, and he says that weren't acceptable, but only after being praised on the issue. And Biden in response called it malarkey, and it was Trump, and he insisted who emboldened Putin in the lead up to Russian invasion. And if there was any encouraging, and he added it had come during Trump's 4 years of fortified with the outcourt. And Biden, by the way, reasoning for continued US support for Ukraine broke down along two lines. And first that it's a priority and essential step because Putin, he believes, wouldn't stop at Ukraine western border. And he also argued, and he is done in the past, and that the existence of NATO and inherently empowered the US, and that such close allyship with Western Europe offers the US a stronger hand in all its instructions around the world. Trump makes a bid for black and Latino voters. As the debate by the way turned to black voters, Trump took an opportunity to make a bid for black and Latino voters and not Biden on inflation. And Biden's by the way chances of winning in November are dependent on black support in Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania, and rich states like Georgia and North Carolina. But polling has shown that Trump is making modest inroads with some black voters, and specifically, meanwhile others are disengaged from the election. And Biden by the way was asked what his message is to black voters who have seen record unemployment but still face disparities when it comes to wages and maternal health and incarceration rates, and Biden roots by the way his policies, and including his efforts to reduce student loan debt, but acknowledged that costs are up. And I don't blame them by the way for being disappointed, and the inflation is still hurting them badly, and Biden says that there is more to be done, and considerably more to be done, and but we have gone a great deal so far, and I am not letting up, and they know it. And Trump blamed Biden for creating inflation and said his immigration policy has led to jobs losses for black people. And he caused by the inflation and is killing black families and is killing Hispanic families and just about everybody. And Trump says that again. The fact by the way is that his big kill on the black people is that millions of people that he is allowed to come in through the border, and they are taking black jobs now. And the conversation now here then turned to policing, as Biden said Trump tried to cut funding to police, and Trump incorrectly said Biden referred to black people as super predators in the 1990s, and that was former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, and started his work on criminal justice and reform and opportunity zones with South Carolina and Republican Sam and Tim Scott, and the biggest beneficiaries are blacks by the way, and that's why we have the best numbers with them in maybe ever. And Trump says that again. The common thread blaming inflation on the pandemic. Biden by the way and Trump landed on the same scapegoat when asked to explain the economic recourse and the pandemic back and forth over coronavirus. For a moment made it feel like they were picking up where they left off in 2020, and asked at the top of the debate about one of the most pressing and headlines facing his re-election bid, inflation. And Biden said he inherited an economy that was in free fall and caused by Trump's stewardship of COVID-19. Biden says the pandemic was so badly handled by his predecessor, and he quoted by the way Trump saying the coronavirus was not that serious, and when it arrived and poked fun at Trump's suggested remedy of injecting and into the body, and he put things back together. And Biden says that Trump for his part blamed the pandemic for halting an economy he said was the greatest economy in the history of our country. And a familiar refrain by the way from the former president, and you got hit with COVID, and when we spent the money necessary so we didn't get hit with the Great Depression. Trump says that again. Trump said we racked up twice as much federal debt than Biden, according to a new non-partisan report and referenced by Tabor, and went on to claim that he was about to start paying down the country's debt when the coronavirus first appeared. And he then shifted the conversation to his to his successor handling of the pandemic, including citizen to fix them mandates and instituted by the Biden administration.